At Race, we like lower energy bills, lower emissions, lower consumption, and a just transition. Do you know what else we like? Michael Colgrove, the Executive Director of the Energy Trust of Oregon. Michael's passion is to develop innovative solutions for today's energy and environmental challenges. And I'm going to tell you something about Michael that's not in the prospectus, which I expect you've all read. Michael was derailed from a career in international relations and foreign languages during his undergrad studies by an enthusiastic geology professor who inspired a love of science in Michael. This by-chance encounter during an elective subject led Michael to pivoting his studies towards science, specialising in energy. He remains inspired every day by the impact the Energy Trust has on its customers, no matter how big or frustrating the challenges are. Looking to international best practice is also part of rethinking how we think. Please give a warm round of applause for Michael Colgrove.
Marguerite, thank you for that introduction. Yes, I stand before you now instead of in my storied career as a translator, probably, for some international politician. So yeah, I'm Michael Colgrove. I'm the Executive Director of Energy Trust of Oregon. And before I begin, I just want to first thank Race for 2030 for, I guess, enabling us to be here today. That was great. I also want to thank Brendan, Brian, your whole team at ECA. We've been on a whirlwind tour of the energy landscape of Australia, and so it's been a fascinating couple of days since we got here on Sunday. I am really, really pleased to be here today. I'm going to share with you a little bit about Oregon, but mostly about the unique organization that the state set out to create about 25 years ago. I do want to start off by saying that as a visitor to this beautiful city, and I do want to apologize for my sort of nascent understanding, but I would like to express respect and appreciation for the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, who I now know to be the traditional custodians of this land. Yesterday, I was actually able to learn more about the land and cultural history of this area from Michael West. I really want to thank him for helping me expand my awareness. Unfortunately, in Oregon and across the United States, we haven't yet really arrived at how to build this practice with the care that I've experienced since I've been here in meetings large and small. So I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity to travel here and learn from you all in that space. So before I continue, I do just want to point to this image. Oh, sorry, not there yet. There we go. I've got 3 screens in front of me, and yet I still can't tell. I want to point to this image on the screen. This is actually one of Oregon's great natural wonders. This is Crater Lake. It is by far one of the most beautiful places that I have ever visited anywhere, and I've lived in Alaska and Hawaii and all kinds of places. It is a national park. It's actually our only national park in the state of Oregon. And it is, in my opinion, one of the must-see attractions if you ever find yourself in the Pacific Northwest of the US. Okay, so just to ground everyone a little bit, Oregon is there. We are immediately north of California on the west coast of the United States. We are a state of about 4.2 million residents, with more than half of those living in the metropolitan area of Portland. At 250,000 square kilometers, we are the 9th largest state, and we rank 27th in population among the 50. Those residents that live there live in just over 1.7 million housing units, of which approximately 430,000 are in multi-unit dwellings. Most of them work in one of the nearly 120,000 business sites throughout the state, which don't include our government or agricultural facilities. We also have a very rich and fertile valley known for its agricultural production. We have multiple mountain ranges, we have scenic rivers, we have dense forests, and we have a high desert. The First Peoples of Oregon include numerous tribes. Today, there are 9 federally recognized tribes in the state of Oregon, although there are actually many more tribes that have not received federal recognition. Our state motto is "She flies with her own wings," and there is definitely an independent spirit of the people who live in Oregon. Much is made of Oregon's scenic beauty, and it does draw residents and tourists alike to its natural wonders. And unfortunately, like many other special places, Oregon is experiencing the impacts of climate change. We have wildfire, we have drought, we have excessive heat, and we have destructive winter storm events, which have become more frequent throughout the years. Now, before I tell you about Energy Trust, I actually want to start with Ryan Kinnett. Ryan is a teacher from Salem, Oregon. Ryan and his family actually first engaged Energy Trust with about more than a decade ago when they received one of our home energy reviews. That's a service that we offer that provides customized recommendations for energy efficiency upgrades. Since receiving that service, Ryan has gone on to install water and energy-saving shower heads, attic and wall insulation, high-efficiency windows, a high-efficiency natural gas fireplace, and a solar electric system, all with help from Energy Trust's incentives. When we interviewed him later, he estimated a 35% to 45% reduction in his total annual energy cost for natural gas and electricity. That's a big deal for a family of 5 living on a teacher's salary. Ryan actually told us that by saving money each month, his family was able to afford some special summer vacations, such as touring Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. Those are 2 more natural wonders, by the way, that I would highly recommend on a visit to the American West. So, like Ryan, people everywhere want to live comfortably and safely without struggling to pay energy bills. In Oregon, there happens to be an organization dedicated to helping them do just that. Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent, nonprofit organization serving customers of Oregon's investor-owned electric and gas utilities. We create energy solutions, we address market barriers, and we support customer actions to save energy and manage their energy costs. Our customers are people who own and rent their homes, they're businesses, large and small, they are farmers and ranchers, they are cities and schools, and industrial manufacturers of all sizes. We help them save energy and generate renewable power so that their homes and buildings can be cleaner, less expensive to operate and maintain, and healthier and safer, and so that their communities can be more resilient in the face of extreme weather, wildfires, power outages, and significant energy cost increases. But to understand how and why Energy Trust was created, you kind of have to understand the geographic and political climate in the state. The origin of power in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest, which includes Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana, there in blue on the map, is the region's large and powerful rivers. From the 1930s to the 1970s, 274 hydroelectric dams were built on the Columbia River and its tributaries, and they provided most of the electricity for the region at a very affordable rate, and they fueled the growth of industry and cities. But there were substantial costs to the indigenous populations who relied on those rivers. Salmon and other first food sources were significantly disrupted by the dams. That alone is a topic to which I just can't do justice to here today. But I do want to say that managing fish populations is now an ongoing priority in the region's energy planning, an objective that is further challenged, of course, by persistent drought and years of reduced snowpack related to climate change. Today, though, about 40% of Oregon's power comes from this extensive network of dams. Okay. Energy nerds, we need charts and graphs, right? As the Pacific Northwest population grew in the 60s and 70s, energy needs grew beyond the availability of that hydropower system. Expecting energy to grow proportionally to the population, our utilities built dozens of new power plants to meet that projected demand. Ironically, they didn't account for a basic tenet of economics. Building those power plants drove up costs for customers, and those forecasters didn't consider the impact that price increases might have on energy use. As rates went up, energy use went down. At the same time, an energy crisis, some of you may remember Enron, took hold of the US, creating significant public interest in energy conservation. So the leaders of the Pacific Northwest came together and they recognized that energy efficiency, or the energy that we conserve and don't ever use to begin with, is a resource. It's a resource just like coal, hydropower, and natural gas. But where availability and cost of electricity from power plants and hydropower can actually fluctuate over time, energy efficiency is cheap, it's predictable, and it's reliable. Or rather, I should say, it can be predictable if we plan for and invest in it like any other energy resource. So our federal government actually passed the Pacific Northwest Electric Power Planning and Conservation Act in 1980. There's no government bill that doesn't exist that's less than 9 words. That actually required utilities in the 4 Northwest states to produce 20-year forecasts of their energy demand and how they would meet that demand. It also required utilities to acquire all cost-effective energy efficiency before buying any output from new power plants. But utilities provided inconsistent support for energy efficiency, really depending on market conditions in any given year, and also in their immediate forecasts for supply constraints. So in years where energy was scarce and expensive, investment in energy efficiency went up, and in years where energy was cheap and plentiful, investment in energy efficiency went down. This graph, which is actually for all 4 of the Northwest states, illustrates those inconsistent investments in efficiency, which, as you can see here, has been a bit of a roller coaster before Energy Trust was created or established in 2002. Actually, one of our energy planning pioneers in the region calls this Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. If you've ever been to Disneyland, you might recognize that name. That's a ride at Disneyland. I just want to point out here before I go on, you'll see in this graph, the units here on the y-axis are average megawatts. Coming from the east coast of the US, I had to learn what an average megawatt was. It is a unit unique to the Pacific Northwest, as far as I can figure, and it has to do with our abundant natural resource. We just had to introduce one more unit to the lexicon. 1 average megawatt is 1 megawatt delivered continuously 24 hours a day for a year, or 8,760 hours. So it is not a unit of power, it is a unit of energy, of consumption. And you'll see this unit throughout the presentation. So just wanted to step aside in case everybody was like, what's AMW? Okay, so that inconsistency in that investment is really why the Oregon legislature passed a law back in 1999 to ensure stable investments in energy efficiency and renewable energy. It mandated consistent funding for those funds, and it mandated a plan to acquire as much cost-effective efficiency as could be had, and it mandated a way to deliver efficiency programs to customers. Energy Trust opened its doors in 2002 to meet that mandate. And we are anomalous in the US, by the way. This is not the way most states do things. There are only a handful of states, including New York, Vermont, Hawaii, Maine, who have a dedicated sort of non-utility entity to administer energy efficiency funds and serve the markets. And most states, your utility provider would be the entity that you would go to for efficiency. In subsequent years, through additional legislation, as you can see on this timeline, and other regulatory agreements leading to contracts with our gas utilities, Energy Trust grew to serve all 5 of the state's investor-owned electric and gas utilities, and over the years, our scope has expanded to include battery storage, contracts related to community cooling efforts, a smart grid demonstration project, and service for our large industrial gas transport customers. So Oregon's consumer advocate organization, which is called Citizens Utility Board, or CUB, produced this slide for a conference a few years ago. This really represents the impact that we've had in the state, sort of in a nutshell, in one graph. What you're looking at here is a graph of average household electric users since 1990 for the United States, that's the blue line, for California, for comparison, in the red, because everybody thinks California is so great. Oregon is in green, and then one of our utility partners is there in purple. So while household energy use has grown and is actually higher across the country, in Oregon you can see it's decreased significantly. Energy trust is a major reason why Oregon has been able to substantially reduce energy use in the last 20 years. You can see that drop start right there around 2002 when Energy Trust began delivering energy efficiency programs. Prior to our creation, when the utilities were running those programs, Oregon didn't make much progress. I'm actually going to come back to this work here later. All right, so you might be wondering, how do Oregon utilities and Energy Trust plan for energy efficiency as a resource? First, really important to keep in mind that Oregon's utilities are not deregulated the way that they are here, right? Our utilities are still pretty vertically integrated. They're integrated across generation, transmission and distribution, and retail. Each utility is given monopoly control over specific geographies within the state. As a result of that Northwest Power Act that I mentioned, Oregon utilities are required to develop these integrated resource plans, or IRPs. Those plans detail the utilities' plan to meet future energy needs, and energy and capacity needs at the lowest cost and risk to consumers. These plans are actually, from what I can gather, pretty similar to your integrated system plan. Our utilities file these plans every 2 years with the state's regulating body, and each plan is for the following 20 years. The integrated resource plans include estimates of those future energy needs, an analysis of the resources available to meet those needs, and the activities required to secure those resources. But the plans must prioritize energy efficiency as the least cost, least risk resource. And that's really where Energy Trust steps in. As a key input to those plans, we provide estimates of how much energy efficiency is technically feasible, how much of that is cost-effective, and how much of that cost-effective potential is actually achievable. We quantify the costs and benefits of energy efficiency so we can see how it stacks up against supply-side resources. And that's what defines efficiency as the least cost resource. Even with Oregon's electricity costs, which at dinner we were all looking at our utility bills, because that's what energy nerds do at dinner. Right now our electricity costs are around 18 cents US per kWh. With the current exchange rates, that's around 28 cents, I think, Australian. That's actually cheaper than the average cost across most of the US, and actually in most countries around the globe. But even at that low price, energy efficiency still pencils out as a cost-effective energy resource. In 2022, our electric savings acquisition, how much we paid for every kilowatt hour that we saved, came in at a cost of just 3.1 cents per US, 3.1 cents US per kWh, about 4.8 cents Australian. Through 2002, Energy Trust has acquired electric and gas savings at 32% and 20%, respectively, of the cost utilities would pay to generate and deliver that equivalent amount of energy. So, lots of evidence that we're the least cost resource, but we don't stop harping on it. Okay, so in addition to those integrated resource plans, though, let's move that. All right. Utilities are now required to also create clean energy plans, explaining how they're going to meet emissions reduction targets under new climate policies that the state has adopted in the last couple of years. Oregon has really set some aggressive gas emissions targets, not unlike Australia, and those deadlines are actually coming up very quickly. Oregon's 100% clean energy standard requires 80% emission reductions by 2030 and 100% by 2040 within the electric utility side. Through our climate protection program, a separate program, natural gas utilities also were given emission goals of 50% reduction by 2035 and 90% reduction by 2050. That program is actually currently being held up in our legal processes, but our gas utility partners are really still prioritizing as much energy efficiency as possible to reduce emissions. As you can imagine, efficiency is a cornerstone of these plans. But we're also now seeing significant incentives from Oregon State, from the federal government, and even individual cities are jumping on board. One big example that you may have heard of is the Federal Inflation Reduction Act, which includes federal tax credits and rebates for energy efficient equipment and upgrades. In Oregon, Energy Trust acts and can continue to act as that single resource for customers to help them understand the programs available and how they can be paired with Energy Trust cash incentives to further reduce costs of efficient investments. And we work very closely with the state agencies and others who are administering these funding to make sure that we're in alignment. Okay, so with that little bit of how we got here and the context we're working within, let's just look at a few ways that we help customers save that energy. A little more than half of Energy Trust's total annual funding goes right back out the door to customers in the form of cash incentives. The incentives encourage customers, of course, to get that more efficient version of equipment than what might be standard in the market. We also offer higher incentives for income-qualified residential customers, and that includes on our renewable side for solar systems. But one of the less visible resources that we offer is actually our expertise. Energy advisors and specialized outreach staff for each program work to guide customers on their energy journey. And that includes helping a customer understand which upgrades to prioritize, helping them apply for incentives. We also verify installations. We even perform walkthrough services in some cases to help them understand what their opportunities look like. We actually leverage a network of contractors and other businesses to help customers make those energy upgrades and access our incentives. We currently have around 1,600 trade ally contractors enrolled in our network, which in turn employ thousands of Oregonians. And the majority of these are small, local businesses. And since not every customer can afford the upfront costs of buying more efficient equipment, or some just don't own their own home or building, renters for instance, we do offer a do-it-yourself page on our website for those customers with video tutorials and directions to do energy-saving projects without having to hire a contractor. We're also a neutral third-party source of information for policymakers and for municipalities seeking to advance clean energy goals. And we host trainings and events to bolster technical energy expertise and general knowledge for customers and contractors alike. We also hold a contract with another organization in the region called the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, or NEA. NEA delivers market transformation. Market transformation is a long-term effort to really work to bring more efficient, more high-efficient technologies into the marketplace and to help drive their adoption. So they work with manufacturers, they work with distributors to help understand how and what is on the horizon and how we can bring that to the market. They also work kind of on the back end, helping to advance codes and standards so that this technology becomes standard practice. So this slide is just a basic overview of the programs that we offer for each type of customer. So we have 3 energy efficiency program sectors, those in the light blue: residential, commercial, and industrial and ag. Our residential sector has 3 program tracks. Those focus on upgrades to existing homes, efficient construction of new homes, and promoting and reducing costs of energy efficient products and equipment at the retail level, upstream or midstream participants. In the commercial sector, we have 2 programs, one for upgrades to existing buildings that actually includes multifamily. We count multifamily or multi-unit dwellings in the commercial sector. And then another for major renovations and construction of highly efficient new buildings. And then our industry and agriculture sector is essentially one program called production efficiency. It specializes in working with manufacturers and agricultural producers to identify energy savings opportunities in their equipment and processes. And then you kind of see this last box here crosses both. We have a business lighting program that's embedded in both commercial and industrial sectors. Then we have, on the In the yellow there, our renewable energy sector, that is made up of two components, our Market-Ready Solutions program, and then another program focused on custom solutions. Market-Ready Solutions really serves residential and commercial customers with higher volume offers, really that tend to focus on solar. And then our Custom Solutions program is focused on highly custom program offerings and piloting new ideas. And it tends to serve longer-term projects, which are typically biopower and small hydropower. And then finally, in the last column there, we are currently developing new types of offers to serve communities whole as customers. And they include small grants to community-based organizations and targeted efforts for specific communities where there are constrained utility services. So, what are the results of these programs? How much energy have we saved? This chart shows our results since inception. This is the electric savings in average megawatts again. And you can see there, up until about 2008, our funding was actually fixed at an initial level that was established by that initial legislation. But starting in 2009, new legislation came out that allowed us to actually negotiate our budget and identify more energy efficiency on an annual basis. And you can see the results of that. They accelerated until 2017. And that's actually where you can see the drop-off because residential lighting products became standard in the market. It's actually a success story seeing that drop-off because LEDs finally, took their place in the sun, so to speak. This slide here is a similar view. This is of our natural gas savings in million annual therms. Excuse me. And that really started to ramp up after we started serving all three gas utilities in Oregon. So, from a cumulative perspective, our impact has been pretty substantial, not just on the utility system, but on the people who live and work in our state. Since 2002, we have invested $2.6 billion US in utility customer funds. Those investments have resulted in savings and generation of 1,059 average megawatts of electricity and savings of 93 million annual therms of natural gas. Energy savings investments have transformed more than 750,000 homes in Oregon. That seems to be about a quarter, I believe, of all the housing units in New South Wales. We've also transformed an additional 50,000 businesses, factories, and farms, and have helped install 26,000 renewable energy systems that are now generating clean power. But our value really goes beyond the kilowatts and therms. Because of efficiency, our customers' homes are more comfortable and safer during weather events, and their businesses run better and cost less to operate. Our work creates jobs. It strengthens our economy through new purchases of goods and services, through job creation, through increased wages and new business income. Since we started in 2002, the net economic benefits of Energy Trust expenditures, energy savings, and renewable energy generation have added $12 billion in economic activity to Oregon's economy, including $3.8 billion in wages, $618 million in small business income, and employment equivalent to 84,300 full-time jobs. Thanks to energy efficiency, our entire region benefits from cleaner air, more reliable energy, and the ability to come back stronger from natural disasters like wildfires and extreme weather. We hear from our utility partners that they also see additional benefits from our work, from using energy-efficient technologies like smart thermostats and water heaters to help them manage peak demand, to avoiding costly distribution upgrades in constrained areas of the grid. Okay, so those are the numbers. And the numbers only describe one aspect of our work. The real impact we have is on the people that we serve. Why do people want to work with us? What we often hear is that people appreciate that we're an independent nonprofit. They don't see us as a utility or a government that has an agenda beyond our stated purpose. And I did not pay for the video that we saw earlier. We also hear that we're good at helping customers achieve their goals, which are not usually actually about energy alone. We help customers make homes more affordable to live in and ready to weather the seasons. We help businesses run better and reduce air pollution on top of that, which of course is contributing to climate change. Finally, we do our best to make it as easy as possible for customers to take action. We are a first stop for questions, and we help customers navigate the confusing array of equipment options and resources. We are who people turn to when they don't know where to start. This photo is from the owner of Vias Market. That market has been a hub for Portland's Hispanic community for more than 13 years. The market's owner, Medardo Villanueva, worked with Energy Trust to upgrade to LED lighting and purchase efficient kitchen equipment to launch a takeaway food option. Our incentives cut the market's out-of-pocket costs for the kitchen equipment upgrade by 45%. And now the market saves an estimated $5,100 US a year, or about 8,000 Australian dollars. All right, so I'm gonna end, by showing you a video that actually helps illustrate our brand and how we engage with people and their why.
Energy. What really happens when we use it? How does it connect to people's lives, their dreams? At Energy Trust of Oregon, these are things we think about all the time, and we've been working to bring our solutions to life for over 20 years. What we've learned is that energy isn't just a thing that happens, like when you turn on a light or a heater. Energy is what happens afterwards. It's the home where now you don't have to worry if your loved ones are warm in winter. It's the business that can now keep their lights on and their dream alive. And it's communities where today's generation can thrive, and the forecast for tomorrow's is even brighter. It's both a present and a future, where we're thoughtful about the energy we use, and aware that our choices can not only better our lives, but other people's too. That's energy, and that's what we're about. Partnering with local utility companies to help people save energy and lower costs so that all those things are possible. Energy Trust, offering energy savings and solutions since 2002.
All of those people in that video, those are my why, right? I think, yeah, it's great that the system's more efficient. It's great that we're providing a least cost resource. But it's the impact that we can have on people's lives that really drives the work that we do, I think. So I hope you all understand maybe a little bit more about who we are and the customer service infrastructure that we've helped to develop. We're very proud of the work that we've done at Energy Trust of Oregon. I really want to thank you all for listening today. And I look forward to sharing more about Energy Trust in the discussions to come. So thank you.